welcome back to the exciting video. And what we're going to do today is we're going to set up a Wolfgang standard. Got this, actually my wife bought this for me. We found a used Wolfgang standard, and I did a poll and put it up on YouTube. Is an American Wolfgang worth $3,500 more than a standard? And not one person said yes, but it was exactly split. Half the people said no, and the other half said I don't know. So we are going to find out. But I found this, and my wife ran down there and bought this for me. And get this out the way, and it does have a few issues. I did tune it, but we're going to change the strings in it, make sure the trim is set up, and we're going to check the intonation on it. But it does have a few minor issues. If you can see here, the tone knob, yeah, it turns endlessly. So there's obviously something broken in here that we've got to figure out what's going on. And it doesn't have the back plate on it, which is fine because on my Wolfgang that I use, I don't put the back plate on mine either. And getting text messages from bandmates. And bada bing, bada boom. So anyway, so we're going to do a setup on this. We're going to change the strings out, check the intonation, make sure the trim's good. And then after I get all that stuff set, then I'm actually, even though I know there's a lot of reviews out there, I'm actually still going to do a review on this so we can compare it to an American Wolfgang. Now mine is the PV series Wolfgang, the one that I play mostly. And it's just a personal thing. I've played the American Wolfgangs, and I prefer the PV Wolfgangs over the American Wolfgangs. And I gotta be sorry. I just don't think the guitar is worth $3,600 for an American Wolfgang, which is insane to me. The prices, they're just pricing guitars out of the average buyer's market. And it's just getting stupid on what guitars cost. And so, but I still prefer the PV Wolfgangs. And it's not so much because of the cost of them. To me, they just feel chunkier and beefier than the American ones do. And also the PV Wolfgangs have, they have the neck that is starts at 12 degrees, and I think it ends up at 15 or 16. I'll have to check to be sure, which is what this guitar should be. The PVs have the straight 15-degree radius, and I prefer straight radius necks. Like on my Ibanez's, the Ibanez's that I play, they have 15.75-degree radius necks on them. And I just prefer straight radius up and down. So there's no reason for me to buy one of the new Wolfgangs because I like the PV ones better. And I already own them. And I'll have to pay $3600, $700, I don't know, $9 million for the guitar. So, but she did get me this because I was kind of curious on how, these are made in Indonesia, and I was kind of curious on the difference. And if it's echoing in here, I'm sorry, I do not have on my lapel mics. I am just running a shotgun. Right. Oh, yep, shotgun mic right there. So, you see it right there. I'm just running a shotgun mic in here right now, so you're probably going to get a lot of echo in here, and I do apologize for that. But this guitar, like I said, I'll do a review. This is the flat black, of course. It is used, obviously, and it has the roasted maple neck on it. And so I'll do a review on the next one. But like I said, there are some things we're going to fix. Not in this video, it'll be in the next video. Obviously, I'm going to figure out what I want to do with this. And I may just turn this into another volume knob and set it to the front pickup and have two volumes, because I really don't need a tone on a guitar like this. But real quick, what I do like about this over the other Wolfgangs is I do like the body cutaways here. And this is what I like, is the forearm cutaway, because on my Wolfgang, it's, and I've mentioned this before in previous videos, you know, it's got the binding on the edge. And I wear my guitars, well, not this high, but I wear them fairly high. And actually they sit right about here on me, and that binding just destroys my forearm, absolutely destroys it. And so I was kind of curious if I could get this to play as well as my American one. And these new are only $6.99. So on that note, let's start ripping some strings off and getting things started. So we're going to do a string change on this. Got the trim lobe bar off, and we're going to check this out. This is a Floyd Rose style trim, and I did a video where I did the Ibanez that has the zero system on it, which I absolutely love. It has that wheel on the back to adjust, and I just had to do a complete setup on this guitar last night. We played a show last night, and what we were doing was actually in standard because we're down a half step. So I had to do a complete setup on this, and I wish I would have recorded it because I haven't really done a video where I did a complete setup on an Ibanez because I changed the string gauge on it, and so I had to readjust the neck and I had to readjust the trim low. What I did is I went from a 46 to a 9, which completely got my trim out of jacked up and out of whack. So I had to go in and adjust everything, and this is the trim system I'm talking about. Absolutely love this. And this system does not come on the Prestiges. It comes on the Premiums, which is what this is, and one of my favorite guitars. And it comes on the J Customs, but not on the Prestiges. And that kind of sucks because I think that is an absolutely brilliant setup. So I did a complete setup on this, and then of course it plays perfectly now. And so we're going to end up doing it on this guitar also. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a string change, and then I'm going to run off to dinner. And then we'll come back and do a part 2 on this and get a few more things fixed in it, and then we'll do a comparison of how it sounds from real American Wolfgang to Indonesian Wolfgang. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. So let's go ahead and break this nut loose. Oh. Actually, I've already got it loose. So that helps us out quite a bit. Now, just from what little I've messed with this, I can tell you right away, the componentry definitely is not on par with an American Wolfgang. It's not even close. The tuners here are very stiff and jumpy. They got hard spots in them. And you can just tell from the adjustment screws here that this is not even close to an American Wolfgang. But of course, you know, there again, is it worth the price difference? Is it $3,000 difference? And we're going to find out. So let's go ahead and get these strings done. Now, one thing I have noticed is this one does have a little bit of a float to it. And I'm actually going to leave it that way. These are usually hard, they're set flush and hard back, but I'm actually going to leave this one with a little bit of float in it. We're just going to make it more of a pain in the ass to set this up, but that's going to be okay because I do like to be able to bend back on my trim systems. So let's go ahead and loosen everything up. And I can just feel in the machine tuners here that they're just not the same quality, obviously. But even though they're not the same quality, is it worth $3,000 more for an American Wolfgang? And we're going to find out here over the next couple of videos. And luckily, we found this used. Because I got to be honest, I would not have bought a new one. They're what, $799? I mean, $699, $799, or $899, I believe, depending on the model you get. And I would not have bought one of these new for something that I really wouldn't play all that much. So when you're changing strings, you definitely want to loosen them up. You don't just want to go in there with your strings tight and snap those things off, because that neck's going to go flink when you do that. It's not going to break the neck, obviously, but the neck has got a lot of tension on it. The neck has got a lot of tension on it, and if you just snap those strings off, it's going to snap that neck. It's going to relieve that tension instantly, and not really a good thing for your neck. Now, let's loosen up everything back here. Now, I'm just going to, if you can see here, I'm going to assume the intonation on this thing is trash. I haven't checked it. Because, I mean, look how far the blocks are moved. Now, that doesn't mean the intonation's out. But I'm going to have a pretty safe bet that once we get this tuned, now I'm going to check the intonation with it laying flat. You're supposed to hold the guitar to check it. I'm not going to do that on this video. I'm going to leave the guitar laying flat when I check it. And then after I get everything done and I get it really, really close, then I'll do that some other time and just go ahead and fine tune that intonation. Wow, look at that. That's not even tight. That's barely in there. I don't even know how that has stayed in. Jesus, look at this. Okay, so the E and the A are completely loose. See how this one is. Wow. I'm not even having to use any force to break these loose. Excuse me. So that's not a good thing. Whoever set this guitar up really did not know what they were doing. I mean, they're not... What the... All right, what's going on here? Wow, they actually had the strings, they had them in, and then they had taken these blocks out, put the string in there way past it, and then put the block over it. And I don't know if you can see how the string's bent. So this was actually under the block. I guess you can do that. That's not something I would do. Yeah. I guess that's why you didn't need them that loose. Yeah, they were under the block. Yeah, you can do that if you would want to. It really doesn't matter one way or the other. So now that we got these off, and of course these are not real Wolfgang pickups that are in here. I mean, they're Wolfgang pickups, but I'm sure they're wound over in Indonesia. And I'm sure they have some kind of specifications to wind these by, but I can assure you they're not a American Wolfgang pickup. Man, this guitar is filthy too. Absolutely filthy. Tell you what, let me get a rag. I'm just gonna wipe off some of the dirt real quick. All right. I'm not gonna polish it or anything like that, because ultimately, probably what'll end up happening is I'll probably end up painting this guitar. Since it is flat black, it's already got a good base for what I want on it. So I'll probably just end up painting this guitar regardless. But let's go ahead and do the setup on it anyway. Man, this thing's filthy. So that's good enough for now. You can see it's got some road wear on it. It's got a couple of nicks, dings, and all that good stuff. So what we're using here is we're using some Ernie balls. Now, I am a Diodario guy when it comes to strings, but for some reason, no matter where I go, I can never find Diodario hybrids. We're going to put a 46-9 on this. As I do play in a 80s metal and rock band, and I'm down a half a step. So I use 46-10s normally tuned down a half step. But I like the thickness of the 46. So when I am in standard, I use a hybrid 46-9 setup. The only problem is every time you switch them, with the lighter gauges on the bottom, you have to readjust the neck when you do that, when you go with this type of hybrid set like this. So let's get this dude up and rolling. These little things, these little balls, put these back in the sleeve when you cut them off, because I've put one of these on the floor and I have stepped on it, and that sucked. That was not fun. Now this is a lot easier to do than an Ibanez, because this has an actual block on it. It's literally a block. Let me unplug this. Will it stay there? Of course not. It literally has a block. You piece of shit. It literally has a block in it, and the string goes in and it pushes up against the block. To where on an Ibanez, it's thick back here, but it's skinny in the front. So it's a lot harder, especially on the high E string, to get that, because you got to get that string lined up with that little bitty slice of a block. And that makes it very hard to do sometimes on the Ibanez's. These just have a regular straight block in them, so these are fairly easy to get these mounted up. Now when you're tightening these up, you don't want to over tighten anything, but you do want these to be snug, especially if you have a trim system that pulls backwards. And we're going to leave this one with that little bit of float in it, but you do want these set up to be snug. Because if you leave these two loose, now that other guy was putting them under the block. I wouldn't do that, of course. You can do that, but it would probably require you pulling the block out, laying the string in, pushing the block in, and then doing it. I'm not going through that kind of a headache. So we're going to go ahead and put all the strings into the Trem now. Now, a lot of people will put this end in the bridge and then put the ball up at the top. I personally don't like that. It is a personal thing. It drives me insane when I see those balls hanging off the top. You know what? I don't want to see balls hanging off the top of anything, let alone my damn guitar. So I do not do that. I do it the old school way. Like I said, you just want to snug these up here. All right, so we got all the strings in. So now, since we have all of our empty sleeves, we're gonna do a little string management here. Because I do have dogs, and these things will fall on the floor, and they're hard to see on a wood floor. And then the next thing you know, your dog's limping, and he's got a string hanging out of his paw. So that is not a good thing. So we're gonna get all these up right now. Like cables. You ever notice that no matter how nice you wrap your cables up, as soon as you throw them in your cable bag, you go to a show and pull them out, they're all tangled and knotted together? That is a mystery to me, how that absolutely happens. And I'm thoroughly convinced, if anybody here rides motorcycles or uses tie downs a lot, same thing with a tie down. If you organize your tie downs, put them in your truck box or whatever you put them in, doesn't matter how well you organize them, when you pull those damn tie downs out, every single one of those tie downs is in a big ass knot. And I am thoroughly convinced that if somebody's falling out of an airplane, you don't need to give them a parachute. Just throw him a freaking tie down and that son of a bitch will snag something on the way down and save his life. That I guarantee. All right, let's go ahead and start tying these in. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the trim, because sometimes when the trim is loose, if your springs aren't too tight, sometimes it'll pop off of the anchor here. So I just like to make sure that the knife edge is sitting in the anchor where it's supposed to be. And then back to the last two. Alright, so we got the strings in. Go ahead and do a little stretching on them. And what I like to do is always pull mine up a little bit with quite a bit of pressure to make sure it's seated in the block, because if it's not, when you're pulling it up, it'll pop out of that block, because you do not want that popping out at a show. Oh, that sounds fantastic, doesn't it? All right, let's hook a tuner up. And we need a cable. This is my Fender cable here. I got this cable when I think I've told the story before. When I was in school for music, I took a jazz guitar class with a Mr. Larry Vincent, who's a monster guitar player. And I had an old hammer. It's called a Hammer Slammer. It was really my first guitar in hell. I didn't know what the hell I was buying. And so the first day of that class, I stepped in there and he said, well, you know what? We're going to learn how to play jazz, blah, blah, blah. He said, but I'm going to tell you right now. He said, do not come back to class until you have a better guitar. And I thought, man, what a dick. I mean, what a dick. So I thought, all right, bastard, I'll show you. So I went out and bought a Fender Ultra Deluxe Plus. And it had the LSR roller nut on it and the lace sensors. It was a blonde, beautiful guitar. And this cable came with that guitar. And that was in 1998. And out of the 10,000 cables I've had, the only two that I've had for a substantial amount of time is this damn Fender cable that came with that Fender. And let me find it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Now this was the first guitar cable I ever bought in my life. This is my monster cable. And even back then, I think this thing was like $100. And I bought this right after I bought this Fender. And I bet I have broke 10 million cables since then. But this monster cable and this damn Fender cable has never, ever once let me down. That is astounding. So love or hate Fender guitars, they make a damn good cable. That's for damn sure. All right, let's plug this dude in. Now, like I said, the volume, the tone knob's broken, so I'm not exactly sure if it's turned on or turned off. I don't know where the tone knob is setting in here. I did play it briefly, and it sounds like to me that the tone knob is set open. So, got to figure that out. That's just weird. I've never seen that. I've seen where the potentiometers will spin somewhat, but I've never seen one. So the potentiometer is obviously broken inside here, but I haven't pulled that off to see what's going on. So let's tune this thing up. I guess we got to put the other end in, don't we? This is my Polytune 3, and it says right here at the bottom, bona fide. See? It's bona fide. So, obviously, if it says bona fide on it, it's got to be a damn good tuner. This is my TC Electronics tuner. And honestly, not a big fan of TC Electronics stuff, but I do like their tuner. Look at that. Tuned perfectly to F. So let's go ahead and throw a tune on this. Ooh, that's... And usually I can tune them pretty close by ear, but I cannot get them perfect. I can get them close, but not perfect. All right, now that we've got tension on everything, let's see what's going on here. All right, I'm gonna do another stretch. And one thing I do like about TC Electronics, when it's in tune, you get those green bars, but you can also set it up. See all those green? That means all 6 strings are in tune. You can see that? That's actually pretty cool. And that's one of the reasons why I bought this. And I'm sure other tuners do it. I'm sure they do. But I just love being able to do that. And you can see where your tuning is on every single string. And that is fantastic. And that's why I bought this Polytune. And like I said, besides, dude, it's bona fide. If you're buying a tuner and it doesn't say bona fide on it, then it's just not a damn good tuner. That's just all there is to it. That's all there is to it. All right, so now that we've got that done, now let's see, because I guarantee this intonation is shit. I guarantee it. Our E's in tune. Now normally you check intonation and playing position, but because of the way I'm set up, I am not doing that. Okay, so the E is actually not bad. That's actually spot on. That is shocking. And remember, when you're checking intonation, if you're heavy-handed, don't press on the string super hard because it's going to be completely out of whack when you do that. If you press really hard, you see it's going to pull sharp. Press just enough to fret it. A's in tune. That's actually pretty good. I'm kind of shocked. Okay, the D's out quite a bit. You can see here. So we're going to have to fix the D. Wow, the G's in. B's out a little bit. Dude, that E is barely out. I mean, barely out. So we know we got the D's way out. So let's go ahead and adjust this one here. So we're going to take the slack out of the string. We're going to get our trusty tool. No, I need a different exercise down. And if you work on guitars a lot, do yourself a favor. Buy a good set of Allen wrenches that have the ball heads on them. Make your life a hell of a lot easier. Now they do make tools specifically for this. you lock it on and you can move this without having to untune it all the time. But I've been doing it this way my whole life, so. Oh, that's almost perfect. And see that where it's lighting up green? That is good enough. I'm actually going to leave that there. Because, I mean, we're talking cents off, maybe 1 cent. And that's not a big enough difference to really notice it. So I'm going to leave that one there. Now, what I did, since it was pulling sharp, I pulled the block back to flatten it a little bit, to bring it back down. If it's pulling flat, you scoot the block up. So I went and pulled that block back, but one thing I did notice is these are all shockingly loose in here. Everything on this guitar is loose. So let me just, I don't understand how these things aren't moving all over the place, unless there's just so much corrosion in them they just can't move. Now since I readjusted that one, I'm going to have to retune. That one's good. Now this one is out just a hair. So I'm gonna move this one very little. So I'm gonna tune it down. Gonna loosen the block up, move it just a hair, and I mean a hair. Tighten it back up. Let's pull it back into tune. It's there again, we're talking cents off, so I'm going to leave that there. That's just that's nitpicking at that point, to be honest with you. Now I am going to adjust the E. The E is just a touch on the high side. Look at this. Oh, I was going to say, man, that's shockingly loose. So we're going to pull this back just a little bit and tighten it back in. Tune it back up. Look at that. Still out just a hair. We're going to get that one just a little closer. Make sure I get the right wrench this time. Let's do this. Make it easier for me to. There we go. Tune it back up. Perfect. And like I said, that's maybe 1 cent out. So now I'm going to retune the entire guitar. All right, there we go. So now the next thing I'm gonna do, since I've got this set up where I'm gonna back these all the way out. I back them all the way out to the stop. And you can feel here, this is not a real Floyd Rose. It says special on it. It is special. Then I turn them in a few turns just to give me a little latitude in case I go sharp. Then I retune here. You can see how much that pulled that out. They were screwed in pretty tight. All right, so we got that done. So now we're gonna look at the trim because I want the tremolo sitting even. I don't want it slanted forward or back. And I honestly don't know what the strings that were on it. All I know is that they were tight. They were, I mean, it was hard to bend them one step. So, and since I've gone with a hybrid, and actually it's tilting backwards just a little bit. And it could have been there, yeah, maybe just a hair tilting backwards. Let's see what we got on the action side here. Okay, there's very, very little, I mean very little relief in it. So before I do anything else, let's check it out for, let's, got some fret buzz here. Yeah, right here on this B. Got a little bit of fret buzz there. The action is pretty freaking low on this. What I'm doing, and actually this is pretty cool. This is a tool that comes with Ibanez. For Ibanez guitars, it's got all your Allen wrenches in it, and it's got your truss rod Allen wrenches to adjust the truss rod. And like I said, I had the sound because I had to do a complete setup on my other guitar. A couple of little Phillips heads, and it's got you a gauge in here to measure. Now I keep my guitars around 3/64, which is about 1.1 millimeters. So I want to check that right now, and I'm going to see where my action is sitting. And it is actually very, very low. This is at about 2/64. So that's where we're getting that fret buzz from. That's where we're getting that fret buzz from. But before I do that, what I want to do is I'm going to plug this back in. Check this out. Let me grab a Phillips head. I'll be right back. All right, I do get my trusty Mac Tool Phillips head screwdriver. If you've never used a Mac Tool screwdriver, you don't know what you're missing. And that is all there is to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a drink of my shockingly bad, flavorless, diet-free caffeine Coke. Sucks, but I like to drink soda every once in a while, and I don't drink caffeine, so I gotta drink this garbage. But I drink so much damn water, I get water burnout. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this out 1/2 of a turn. And if you notice here, This is something I'm going to fix because I'm not going to put a plate back on here, but I'm going to relocate this because all this extra, that's going to catch on a button or something and just rip that off. So I'm going to cut this shorter and relocate it on there and get rid of all this slop they got here. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm going to show you here in a minute. Hey, baby.
Oh, you're not shooting right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's okay. What's going on? You what?
Getting stuff out of the dryer.
My wife's getting stuff out of the dryer.
Sorry.
She often runs around the house in nothing but a robe. I've had to stop her a few times from going to work that way. Okay, let me adjust this again. We're going to go back in an 1/8 of a turn. Pretty close right there. So what I did is I leveled out the trim low, but I also like to set these when I'm floating them to when I pull back, it pulls back right around one full note up. So if you notice, when I hit my E, hang on, let me retune this. Strings are still stretching a little bit. When I hit my E and I bend it back, it bends right before it stops and it hits the body, it'll bend right at about an F. So when I pull back, it's going to go up one full step. I dig that. All right, so we're going to do a final tune here, and I'm going to show you one other thing. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine from guitar manufacturers, where I think it's just laziness on what I think is just laziness. All right, so I'm going to cut all these off in a minute. But what we're going to do is watch this. So everything's in tune. We're going to put the blocks back in. Now, if the block is cut correctly and it is angled in the correct height to the string running over the block and into the string tree, when we tighten these down, these strings should not move. And I have yet, even on my American Wolfgangs, not a single one of them did that. None of my Ibanez's do that, but that's, if they're doing precision work, that's actually what should happen. Is the tuning should not move at all when you snug these down. And here again, you just want to snug these again. You don't need to over tighten them. All right, let's check the tuning. Look at that. Not even close. The A's good. D's good. All right. All right, here we go. That is amazing. That is shocking to me. So what this means is this guitar is lined up. Now, granted, I still got to get rid of some of this fret buzz, but they've got the strings, the bottom of the nut, and everything lined up so well on this guitar that it doesn't change when I tighten them up. When I tighten these up on my American Wolfgang, on every single one of them, the E and the A string will go sharp, which means this is not lined up correctly on the American. This is the cheap-ass Indonesian model, and they're lined up. Go figure. All right, let's do some string cutting real quick. Gonna have to find that. All right, so like I said, we got some fret buzz here. So let me see if this will fit in here. I don't know if this will actually fit in there. This is an Ibanez tool. This is not a Wolfgang tool. And it does not fit. So now we got to make, wow. Holy shnikes, this thing is tight. Golly day. Much better. It's got a little bit of relief in it. And like I said on the Wolfgang, I pulled it towards me to add some relief because the nuts are down here at the bottom. And I got rid of quite a bit of that fret buzz here in the middle. Still got a little bit here on the nut side. Still got a little bit on the B string. So what I'm going to have to do is hook it up to an amp and see if that has an acceptable amount of fret buzz to me. Because if it's not, my action right now, I don't know if I want to raise the action up anymore. Let me see where I'm at. I should be right around 3/64 or 1.1 millimeters. Yes, I am almost dead on it. Maybe just a hair too high. I mean, just a hair too high, but very playable for what it is. Yeah, I got rid of a bit of that fret buzz there, but I still have a little bit here. Not so much here. Right here. Hear it? Now I am using a heavy jazz pick. So I still got a little bit here too. So what I'm gonna do, because I've got the neck where I want it. So now I'm gonna make an adjustment here. And what I'm gonna do, you do this in 1/8 turns. Remember, small adjustments make big changes. Checking my action on this side now. Okay, the action is set good. A little over 3/64. Need to retune it. So what I'm gonna have to do is, like I said, I'm gonna have to hook it up to an amp, and I'm gonna have to see if the fret buzz is acceptable. Because if you're gonna play electric guitar and you want fast action, you're gonna have some fret buzz. I don't care what anybody tells you, you're gonna have some fret buzz. But it's just how much fret buzz is acceptable to you is the question. All right. Still got a little bit of buzz here in the bottom. But it's only really relevant on the B and the E string. And I really don't want to raise the action anymore right now. So if it continues to happen, I've got a couple of options because I'm getting it throughout the whole neck. I can raise the neck a little more, which is going to raise the action across the board, which I don't know if I want to go that route yet. I can do another eighth turn here on the Trem and tilt it up to raise these strings up. But I like the action where it's at here also. So it's, and like I said, I'm using a hybrid set of strings here. And what I may do is put a shim under the high side of the neck and just kind of get a little lift here to lift it up to get rid of some of this. But I've got, because the action is actually set pretty well, but I've got some room I can work with here. But the action as it is right now is actually very good. So what I gotta do, like I said, is I gotta hook it up to an amp and see how much of that fret buzz is actually coming through. Because like I said, I do use a heavy pick. Even though I don't strike very hard, it's still a lot of force using a heavy jazz pick on this thing. And coming open, I have no fret buzz here at all. And it's not that bad here. Because when I use my finger, there's a substantial difference. And I'm not going to check it for fret leveling, because at one point I'll probably just come here and polish the frets anyway. They're actually not worn that bad. So I'm not too worried about that right now, because at the end of the day, it is a $400 guitar. So, and you know, I may use it at gigs, I don't know. It just depends on what I end up doing with it when it's all said and done. So that is a setup. So what we did is we changed the strings, went with a different gauge altogether. Adjusted the Trem springs in the back, had to make an adjustment on the front of the Trem, and we adjusted oh my God, we adjusted the bar in it. The truss rod. Holy shnikes. We adjusted the truss rod so we get a good setup. And like I said, this is a Floyd Rose type of setup right here. So it's you know, not too hard setting these things up. They're pretty easy. And shockingly, the intonation was actually pretty damn good for what it was. So I'm going to hold this right here because I got to get dressed, because me and the wife are going to go to dinner. So we're getting ready to go do that. And then next video, I'm going to do kind of a breakdown review of it, just so we get all the stats. So when I compare it to the regular Wolfgang, we'll know what we're talking about, apples to apples. Like I said, this has the compound radius on it. This is a basswood body, of course, and a maple neck, as is the American Wolfgangs. Of course, it's non-arch top. It is a flat top. And mine is a special unit because mine's high speed. This guitar is so fast, you don't even need a tone. It's just there for looks. It's just there to spin. I'll tell you what, real quick before we go, let's dig into this real quick and see what's going on back here. I'm kind of curious. I'm gonna tell you, if you don't have one of these Ibanez tools, take my advice, buy one. These things are awesome. So let's see what's going on back here. Oh, and one other thing real quick. I am probably the oddball. Well, all of us Wolfgang players are. Because you know how a Les Paul switching system works. When it switches down, it is the rear pickup. And I hate that. I think Les Paul, even though they've been doing it for 9 million years, I think they got it backwards. And Eddie Van Halen did it right. When it switches up, it is on the rear pickup. Well, why do I say that? Well, I'm getting ready to show you. Okay, well that didn't pop out. And I'm assuming that's how that chip got in there. They were prying this thing open because this is in there very tight. And that is how that chip got in there, because they did not know what they were doing when they were prying that open, obviously. Use the thin edge of a knife, pop right out. So here's the cavity here. And yeah, it's just spinning in there freely. So this potentiometer is broken inside, and I've never seen that before. This is the first time I have ever seen a broken potentiometer like that. So there is that. So that's going to have to be fixed. Like I said, we're going to paint it at one point, or something or another. So let's throw this back on for now, real fast. Simply so I don't lose little screws. Still got the plastic on the sleeve here, on the piece. Kind of curious, since everything's been so loose on this guitar, kind of curious. Wow. I expected those to be a little tighter. Now, these are in pretty good here. Huh. I expected that to be a little tighter. All right. There we go. That is the setup on a Wolfgang Standard and a Floyd Rose type Trem system. And then when I come back for the next video, what we're going to be doing, like I said, next video I'll just do kind of a review. This will still be broken by then, but I do believe from the sound of it that this is stuck open. And if it's not, I'll just pull this out and bypass it altogether. And that will leave us in the open position. I'll just take this thing out. But seeing that it's broke, I'm pretty sure it's going to be open. So I've never seen that. So there we have it. And until the next video, like the great Sammy Hagar says, you can't see me right now, so I'll just use hand motions here. Like the great Sammy Hagar says, you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm, and nothing falls into place. And until the next video, which will probably be another video on this, maybe. I've got a couple other things I'm looking at also that I may be shooting next. But until the next video, no matter what instrument you play, practice to the best of your ability, and well, you can't really see me, so I'll just give you a rock on.